Hey there, booze buddies. Welcome to another episode of Paranormal Spirits, where we share a drink, we tell you a spooky story, and then we rip it apart because booze always shows the truth. All right, Caitlin, today I have a story for you from the 1800s about a crashed UFO.
That's really fun. From the 1800s?
From 1897 to be exact. This is one of my favorite UFO stories, actually, out of all of them. This is the story of the Aurora, Texas UFO crash. It takes place in Aurora, Texas. So there was a newspaper article. Sir, you need to go lay down. You have had everything that you could possibly need. Go lay down, Ralph. He just stands there stammering and then does this.
Yeah.
Deflating. Go lay down. You're fine. You've already been out. You've had like a million treats. Go. So there was a newspaper article on April 17th, 1897 that describes what they called an airship that had been seen in the area flying around. And they said that on April 17th, around 6 o'clock in the morning, the airship was seen and it was flying much slower than it had been, and that it was also flying much lower to the ground than they had seen it flying before. And they said evidently there was some sort of mechanical issue. They could tell something was going on because it had been up higher and going much faster the last times that they had seen it. So it sailed. So it was traveling due north. It went directly over the public square and it collided with Judge Proctor's windmill.
Not Judge Proctor's windmill. Not his windmill.
Yep. And it exploded and it went into pieces, scattered, so it had this big debris field. Also ruined the judge's flower garden, by the way. It reached the northern part of town, collided with the tower of Judge Proctor's windmill, and went to pieces with a terrific explosion, scattering debris over several acres of ground, wrecking the windmill and water tank, and destroying the judge's flower garden.
The flowers, he spent all freaking... I don't know when you plant flowers.
It could have been years, depending on the type of flowers.
He spent so long in that garden.
So, R.I.P. flower garden. But they also believe that the pilot, there was one pilot, and they think he was the only one on board. And they did find him. He was badly disfigured, but they took him and they gave him a Christian burial. This is Texas in the 1897. Right. He's nicknamed Ned now. I don't know at the time they gave him a name, but now he's known as Ned. And there was a headstone, which has been stolen. I don't know when it was stolen. There's a lawyer that has a reward out for anyone who can return the headstone. They do have a picture of what it looked like, but they know kind of approximately where they believe that Ned is buried. And supposedly the townspeople went and gathered up the debris, so there might be pieces of the UFO potentially out there in Aurora, Texas. But people now go to Aurora, Texas to pay their respects to Ned the alien, to see, just because they think an alien was there. But they did say the ship was just like tiny little pieces. They couldn't tell exactly what happened with it. Of course, this is 1897, so... Are they really gonna know?
I have questions.
Yes.
Number one, when was the airplane invented? When did the first flight happen? Was this post that? What pre that?
I want to say it's 1912.
So this is pre a first flying thing, right?
No. There were hot air balloons. In fact, during the Civil War, they used hot air balloons for reconnaissance. Another good story. Okay, so there were hot air balloons. And
okay,
here's where it gets kind of interesting, right? There were designs for metal-clad airships, what we would call a blimp. And So it was this very thin aluminum-clad airship. Now, there's no definitive report, but there are newspaper articles from 1897, because if you research Aurora, Texas, the one newspaper article that we have about it was on page 5 of the newspaper. It was not front page news, because there were these airship sightings all over the place in Texas, in Indiana, I think Illinois, and like Missouri or somewhere else. People were seeing these airships all over, and they all described them the same. It was like a metallic cigar-shaped airship. Some people described them having wings, mechanical wings, but people were seeing them all over the place. So this was not like front page news, but the fact that it crashed was interesting. So there have been people who have looked into it, and according to several of the accounts, they actually saw these people who were flying these airships out, like they had landed, they were either doing repairs or they were resting. They went up and talked to them. They were people. And a couple of them even like talked to this guy. So he introduced himself as Mr. Wilson. He let them come on board. So this was just a common thing, but it was not anything that was announced publicly, like, oh, we're trying these airships out. And there were a couple of really weird, interesting theories, and maybe we'll do a whole nother episode on these airships because it is a really interesting story. So there's the chance that maybe it was one of these non-verified, like this information was not made public, that these airships were flying. And so there's all this question as to what these actually were, but they were silver cigar-shaped airships. Was this one of those?
Well, so they found the body, right? And nobody freaked out that the body was like, it must have been human form at least, because they just buried it.
It was humanoid. So what's really funny is in the article, it says Mr. T.J. Weems, the United States Signal Service officer at this place and an authority on astronomy, gives it as his opinion that he was a native of the planet Mars. Papers found on his person, evidently the record of his travels, are written in some unknown hieroglyphics and cannot be deciphered. So I don't know how this Mr. Weems would know he was from Mars if they couldn't read whatever these weird hieroglyphics were. But also, again, maybe it was some sort of astronomical chart or, something that they just didn't. Well, I guess the astronomy guy would hopefully know that. But some sort of like navigational chart that they just didn't get, maybe? I don't know.
Well, that, or maybe if it was like a secret mission, it was code. It was like written in code, and there's something like that. Like if they're not publicly putting this out there, maybe it was done in code. Because to me, it's like super wildly interesting that they just buried this body and didn't like make a big deal about it.
Right.
Because, I mean, humanoid, right? Like, so it's totally humanoid. So that makes...
Well, it was like burned and disfigured. So they probably meant like he was in the explosion. It says the pilot of the ship is supposed to have been the only one on board, and while his remains are badly disfigured, enough of the original has been picked up to show, I like how they refer to the body, enough of the original has been picked up to show that he was not an inhabitant of this world.
Interesting. Super interesting that nobody made a big deal out of it. And they're like, we're just gonna bury it over here. Oh, you messed up the judge's windmill and his garden. Let's bury this bitch and they gave him a good Christian burial, which is very sweet.
Yes.
Super weird. I love it. I love it because I do believe that aliens were here like way earlier than we think they were. And you know my theory on like aliens just cruising around, right? Just like out for a cruise. Like we always think it's something like massively malicious, but maybe they're just like out poking around, like on a little, we go on Sunday drives. They're just like, we'll fly.
Yep.
So it's really funny. I mean, that sucks though. That's like car trouble, right? Like you're out on your Sunday drive and you have car trouble. Nothing is worse than that. And then you die.
And you explode. Not a great day out on a Sunday. Even if it was one of these covert airship missions, to me, that's really interesting too. Like, I find that equally interesting as the aliens. I mean, obviously, aliens maybe a little bit more interesting, but wait a second. There were these covert missions of these machines that weren't supposed to exist yet. Like, they weren't supposed to be able to fly yet like that, right? And some of them talk about all kinds of crazy things. And like I said, we should maybe do an episode on it because it is really, really interesting. Yeah. Some of the was that people talk about after they talked to the pilots, what they were told they were doing. I like to think of it as a UFO. Because I just like the idea of Ned the alien getting a nice Christian burial by these kind, Texans in 1897, even though he destroyed Judge Proctor's flower garden.
That's such a stereotypical judge name.
It's like a pilgrim name, like from Salem, right? Wasn't there a Judge Proctor?
I think so.
I mean, there was Mary Proctor, but I think there was a Judge Proctor.
I don't know. I can't remember names. I love it. I think I don't know. I want to say it's an alien because, again, I always want to believe in, like, the weirdest shit. but like
Right.
I equally kind of almost want it to be like early conspiracy.
Like overt missions.
Yes. But like, what are we doing? Like in the 1800s, like what are we covert missioning?
That's why I'm saying we should do an episode on that too, because there was stuff.
Yeah, we should definitely do an episode on that. I need that because now I need to know the deets. I need the deets, as the kids say. No kids say that. That's the elders that say deets.
Right.
I just pictured Judge Proctor like sitting there having his morning coffee and being like, "Oh, what the fuck? A damn windmill!" And then he goes out to like check and see what's happening. And he's like, "My tulips! Damn! Took forever for them to bloom. Don't they know how hard it was to get those tomatoes to grow?"
I love it that this crash, whether human or alien, someone died in it. But Judge Proctor's garden was destroyed.
Destroyed.
Important piece of info.
It's serious. It's serious business. He took that garden seriously.
And he wanted to make sure you knew. My flower garden got destroyed too.
Don't you dare forget. Put it in there. Don't forget to put my flower garden in there. It's necessary. They need to know what Ned did. Ned destroyed my flowers. He destroyed my crops. I don't know what kind of garden it was. Was it a flower garden?
It was a flower garden, yeah.
Damn it. Flowers.
But you know, Caitlin, we named the things of beauty too.
Ain't that a thing of beauty? Let's bury this bitch.
We came upon Ned's remains and they were like, well, bless his heart.
Look at him. Bless his heart. Let's bury
that poor little thing. He just got burned to a crisp. I think we need to bury him.
He looks like a crispy fritter. Let's get him in the ground.
We gotta bury this hush puppy. You can't just leave this here. And you yourself can still go to the cemetery where Ned is buried. They have like a little area that is just a little like nod to Ned, and you can go and take a picture, and people leave things at Ned's gravesite or where they believe his gravesite is. There have been several requests to exhume the body to examine it, but they've always been denied. So I think they're just like,
oh no,
even a good Christian burial, and he's gonna stay that way. That's my theory, at least. But you're frozen. That look disgust.
Hold on. I'm coming back. So that's the story of Ned the Alien and the cigar spaceship crash into some shit. If you like what you saw, take your flowers from your garden and use them to like, subscribe, and ring that bell. And if you don't like what you saw, I'm gonna bury you right next to Ned in an unmarked grave. Thank you for watching us. Thanks for joining, and we'll see you next time for more. What the fuck is wrong with me today? We'll see you next time for more Drunken Adventures with two old. We believe in aliens. We also believe in government conspiracies and spaceships and all that shit kind of whores. Anyway, get out. Goodbye. See you later. See you later.
Bye.